Well, I've got a new Tompkins, a fresh one, reloaded, so it's going to allow us to start to play around and monkey with our data just a little bit. So let's focus on the flood zone. So I'm going to turn some of these other layers off. We'll just take a look at our flood zones at this point. There we go. So these are the different flood zones that are in the Tompkins County area. We can zoom in a little bit. We can click some information on each of them as well. Let's make that active first. So here's the lake, and you can see information. It's in the A zone, it's in the 100-year flood zone, and so on. Here's another one that's in the X500 zone. We scroll down a little bit more. This is the 500-year flood zone. So you can see that we have information about each of the layers, or each of the attributes within that layer. So one of the things that I can do is right-click on flood zones, and I can open up the attribute table. And there it is. Or now that this is clicked, I can come up here on this ribbon and open up the attributes. So these are the attributes. This is sort of what you've probably been familiar with other GIS products. As I look at this data, maybe one of the first things we'll do is right click on. But one nice thing first off is it tells us the name of the column and the type. But I can right click and I can sort this data. So I can sort it based on the FID or possibly the name. Let's hit that, hit OK. And now it's sorted things based on the name. We'll close that off. Let's open it back up. And you can see it is still sorted based on that name. So let's click here. And again, you can see we're able to reverse select by seeing this little triangle as well. So we can right click to do the sort, or we can just click on the arrow. Other aspects too, we can hide a column, we can set the width of the column, we can organize our columns in different ways. So do I want to see certain ones? Let's turn off that FID. Maybe we're not interested in it, so now I don't see it any longer. Let's go back in and we can turn it back on. So great way to sort of manage the look of the data. I've got right now, well, we're showing all the features that are visible on the map. Now that's kind of cool. Let's zoom in really close just to this guy right here. Okay, we'll bring open our table, and now notice we only see a few of the polygons. These are the ones that are visible on the map. I think that's really cool to have that kind of control. And this is really great for editing, right? As you're moving through, you might say, well, let me pan over a little bit. And as we do that, you can see other layers begin to show up. In fact, what I've done here is I've just kind of turned the video off and I've done a split screen. So let's zoom out a little and notice that we're seeing the attributes changing as we move. So that is a really cool feature, but let's just show all the features. There we go. And we'll click that on and we'll expand this as well. So as you work with QGIS, you're going to find there's just new stuff you learn every day. Let's bring open our attributes again, and maybe what I want to do is just select a few. There we go. And let's say show selected features. So now it's only showing me those features that are selected versus showing all the features. So again, another really nice way to interact with the data. Here I'm going to select certain features. Well, here we go. So those are selected. You can see the ones that are selected, and then coming under here, I can say just show the selected features. Another nice, just a nice way to manage and organize the view of the data. Another thing I can do is come in here and just select one, and then I can zoom to that selected feature. And there it is. We've zoomed to it. Let's come in again and let's show all of our features. So if you're working with data, I think this is a feature you're going to use quite a bit. We can also come in here and under the filter, I can select, say, zone, and I want the zone to be AE. Notice it gives me the hyper link here, or the IntelliSense rather, excuse me. And now this shows me the ones that are AE that are selected, and we can, there we go, show that one that's in the zone. And here are all the AEs. I can just show all the A's as well. Hit carriage return, and those will come up. And let's change this to the X500. There we go. So now all the X500 zones come up. So a lot of ways to begin to filter out the data that we see, and here are all of them. Up above, you already saw me playing a little bit with the selection bar. We see it looks very similar to the selection bar in the map. So again, I've got one selected feature here. I can click on the deselect, so now that is deselected. Also notice the way that we're looking at the data, and this row column looks like an Excel spreadsheet. Down here in the bottom right, I can switch to a form view. Now I can look at individual records as though we're filling out a form, and I can come in and then make changes once the data is editable. And I can select that particular record or not select that record, and we'll clear all of them. So that's the form view. Personally, I like working in more of a spreadsheet view. I think that's probably a holdover from the stuff that I've done in the past. But the form view is kind of cool because I can come in here and say select features based on a form. Now we're looking at an individual records here, but here I can say the zone is AE. And I'm using the contains. I can also use the equal to. And then that way I can select all of the features that are AE. And because I'm using a Microsoft Surface, my screen real estate might be a little bit smaller than yours. So if you scroll down, you can see the different things you can do. You can flash the features, or you can select the features that are AE. And there you can see they're selected. And again, we can go back to our table view, and we can see the records that are selected or deselect all of them. And coming in here, I can also, instead of saying equal, let's make that contains. If it contains an A, and then we can select those features. So you see it added some more because it's getting the A's and the AE's. So now we'll come in here and let's deselect all of them. And again, like I said, I like to look at the table view. We can also select based upon an expression. So in this case, I can look at my fields and I can say zone equal to, and then here are my values. So let's look at, say, all the unique values. Zone equal to A. And I can select them, and you can see the table selected as well as part of the map. So this is sort of a query builder type of a capability, but you'll notice, and this is going to take a lifetime to master, there's a lot of different things you can do. Gets beyond what we're doing here, but we can have case statements and if statements, and there's help expressions. There's also different conversions. You can convert things to dates in order to select things as well, to strings, and so on. There are even things like fuzzy matching that you have in here as well. So there's different kinds of fuzzy tolerances that can be put in for looking for strings that are similar but not quite the same. And just real quickly, we come under here, even for geometry, if you notice there's a dollar sign, this is going to let us actually look at the attribute related to the feature. So I can say area greater than, say, 5,000. And then let's select our features. And sure enough, this is going to select those features that have an area greater than a certain amount, greater than 50,000. And you can see some of the features are no longer selected. So this is actually working on geometries as well. So I'm zoomed out to the watersheds. I want to use the watersheds rather than the flood zones because of the projection information. This is in a planar system, and I want to do another kind of a cool little geometry related task. So let's open up the attribute table, and let's go to select our data once again, and let's look at our fields. So you see the different fields, and you can select things like acres and so on. But instead, what I'm going to do is let's look at geometry. So I want to find the area that's greater than, let's say 1 billion. Now, don't be alarmed by these numbers. We're talking square feet, right? That's the units that we're in. So it's area greater than 1 billion square feet. So we're actually choosing a geometry type. Now, the other thing that I can try and do is throw a geometry operator in here for something like buffer, right? So I can return a buffer, and it asks for the geometry and then the distance. So I'm going to paste that, and you can see now I don't have a field called geometry, so I am putting the $ in to indicate that this, and let's actually go to the geometry. This is the current feature, so the feature that we're processing. So now let's move this out of the way and see if anybody gets selected. So I'm going to select those features where after I buffer the geometry by 10 feet, it's over 1 billion. And that's not changed, so let's make it 100. And then let's make it 1,000. And there you can see more gets selected. So this I think is just really cool. We are integrating geometry in with our query tool. So that's something other GIS products might not necessarily be able to do within their query wizard. So this is again one of those things that can take a lifetime to just look through, and you're going to see all different kinds of geometries that are in here. Remember I said before that the data for the flood zones was the latitude and longitude. We could actually perform a transform on the fly. So I can convert a geometry from one coordinate system into another coordinate system and then do the overlay. So we're not going to do that here. But again, you can see all the different kinds of functionality that is inside of QGIS that allows you to do a lot of very sophisticated both attribute and geometric queries. Another thing I'm going to do is open up my field calculator, and in here I've got one feature selected, so I'm just going to hold that there just for the moment so we can start to see how some of this can work. And let's take a look at that actual field itself. So let's close this off and open up our attribute table, and this is the Salmon Creek. It's 21,817 acres. Those are the calculated acres. So let's open up our field calculator, and let's look at our area. And that's a geometric function divided by 43,560. And you can see this is telling us what the output would be. Now, the other thing I can do is I can update an existing field. Let's say acres, and I can say hello, and that expression is invalid. Why? Because acres is, actually I can put that in quotes, and that will allow me to enter the value for hello or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. So I can put that in there. This is going to automatically turn on the edit mode if I don't already have it there, but that's going to take care of all the fields, and I don't really want to do that. So let's just create a virtual field. That's another option. So in this case, we'll call this calc acres, and what we'll do here is I'm going to type area, which we looked at before, divided by 43,560. So that's the number of square feet in an acre. So that's 21,793, like we looked at before. So that was pretty close. And again, there's probably some change due to some of the resolution from when it was originally created in an ArcGIS shapefile. But I'm going to create this new field called calcacres. Let's hit OK. We'll open that. And then let's open our layer field. And notice our acres and our calc acres here, 23,710. So it's pretty close to that one. Let's look at another one here. 2794, that's dead on. Here 33,393, so that's dead on. So what we're seeing now is the calc acres and acres are actually pretty much identical. Again, this one is just slightly different. But again, it enables me to perform calculations both on geometries and attributes.